So we chose this home because primarily it was in our price range, but also it had very good bones, and the architecture is actually caught our eye. Everything else was very kind of plain Jane, for lack of better words, but it looked like it was something we could really do something with.
Hi, I'm Caitlin.
And I'm Luis.
And this is our handmade home in New Orleans, Louisiana. So our house was built in 1901, and we really didn't want to lose that old historic character and turn it into something too modern. So we tried to keep little touches as far as the Victorian types of finishes, like our little curtain tiebacks and just little things like that. And then on the outside of the house, we added in some antique corbels to help it fit with the neighborhood. So this is our living room. We really wanted it to be a very cozy, comfy space. We get a lot of natural light in here. I'm not gonna lie, I really enjoy more witchy, darker decor. I know it's not everybody's cup of tea, but lots of deep colors, jewel tones, gold tones, things that kind of tie a space together. Even though the room is dark, they still add cool little pops of interest. We've been collecting all these candle sconces for a long period of time. Anytime my mom will see one at a thrift store, she'll grab it. I'll always grab them when I see them. So we kind of have different little vintage ones throughout the house, and they're all pretty different. I have a couple pairs, but I think that kind of adds to a little bit of the fun and unique things to look at. I feel like every time you look in this room, something different will catch your eye. I am a traveling hairstylist and a part-time content creator, so I feel like my brain is always working creatively. I'm not a very handy person, but I think in terms of colors and design quite a bit as far as what I do for a living, so it helps me kind of rein it in here.
I'm an auto mechanic, and that doesn't really influence too much of the inside of the house, but it gives me the tools and everything else that I need to help her make her vision come true. So I'm kind of just the man in the back working, doing my thing, but she always has the, she's got the ideas.
But I come up with an idea and you just make it happen just like that.
Yeah,
I don't even have to.
I bought, and I'm like, all right, here we go.
My favorite piece on the gallery wall is this vintage wedding portrait. We don't know who the couple is. I found it at an estate sale I went to with one of my girlfriends. So we brought it home. It gave me a little bit of creepy vibes at first. So, you go through with the old sage and clear it out. But yeah, I think it's a cool, unique piece. It is from 1912, I believe was the date on the back of the frame. So something just different. So our neighborhood is called the Esplanade Ridge area, and a lot of musicians actually used to live in our neighborhood, and there's a lot of cute little shotguns, very colorful. And I do feel like it's kind of influenced us keeping that vibe going and not changing it to something too modern and out of touch. We're also just a short walking distance from the French Quarter, so I always keep my beads all on my railing to keep things fun. And when people walk by, sometimes we have people stop and use our house as a little backdrop because of the bead fence that we have going right now. I kind of wanted this area to be almost like a swamp witch kind of altar feel to it. So I made these candles out of wine bottles and got them all like drippy and melty to add a little interest. And I have a lot of my taxidermy displayed on here too, which is really fun because a lot of it is from friends who do taxidermy art, like my friend Hope. She made this beautiful fox skull and she grew the crystals on it and dyed it specifically for me, inspired by the colors in my house, which was the most beautiful gift I think I've ever gotten. The taxidermy, it started with the pheasant piece that my grandpa had hunted, and we joke that it's kind of bad taxidermy, but it's still kind of stuck. And since I got that piece, a lot of friends have been just kind of giving me their random skeletal art and taxidermy pieces, and it just became my thing over time, and I've come to really enjoy it and think it's a really cool, unique thing that I don't see in a lot of other people's houses. It's one of two ways: either people absolutely love it and think it's really cool, or they think I'm really creepy. One of the things we really loved that this house came with were these beautiful arches. They just add so much character. We really wanted to use every inch of space. Even though this is a narrow hallway, I still wanted to display some cool art to add pops of color through the darkness. So I have some metallics in here and just cool, fun little pieces.
So I grew up in Guatemala before moving to the States, and out there it's very tropical and pretty much what we have here in New Orleans now. We definitely got a little bit of things here that influence it just in our guest room mainly. We changed up the color. A lot of the art has, stuff from over there.
So I grew up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I moved down to New Orleans about 4 years ago during COVID. And things that really remind me of home are I have this beautiful mural on the front of my house that my mother painted. A lot of our furniture, like the wooden furniture, is from my parents' house. Even some of the taxidermy are from my grandparents, something that they hunted in the 70s. So lots of little things that remind me of my family. So this is our primary bedroom. I wanted it to feel very Victorian era, so I went with a bigger, taller bed frame. It's still a little bit modern, but it has that black velvet kind of touch. I wanted to have a really fluffy, cushy bed, super comfy again. And as for the art, I just kind of pieced some things that were a little bit more, Victorian and Regency era. I mean, even the centerpiece on the floating shelf, that was actually the headpiece for one of my Halloween costumes one year that I repurposed into a little piece of art. I just glued all these ostrich feathers and pheasant feathers onto the back of a fake skull, and it ended up turning out really cool. So I'm like, might as well keep it in the decor. It wasn't that challenging combining colors in the home because I'd start off with one thing, and this was a very long process. I didn't try to buy everything up at once and create a room in a week. This is all curated over many, many years. So this paint color is Dark Everglade from Behr. It is my favorite emerald green, and I decided to go for the color drench kind of technique. So I painted not only the walls, but also the trim, the ceiling, and the chandelier medallion all in that color to have it have a really cohesive, cozy feel. My favorite piece in my home is probably the antique fireplace mantle that we added in. One of my girlfriends works at a local antique shop, and she gifted it to us and we refinished it, and I'm just really, really proud of how it came out.
We got it plain, had to sand it down a little bit, work some of the edges on it because, it was free, so we had to do a little bit of work to it. But we got it sanded, we got it stained, and then after that had to do a little bit of cutting around the floor to get it to fit nice and flush with the wall. It made it a bit of a fun and interesting project to kind of put the room together with the color and keeping the dark and keeping the green too.
And then I kind of wanted to bring in the same feel from the mantle area under the TV into here with almost that Louisiana swamp feel with the Spanish moss. And this was actually a cool thing. One of my hairstyling clients, her husband found it and they brought it in to work for me, so I took it home. It's one of those lovely gifted things. This chair is really fun. I picked this up from the set of the Real World Reunion once they finished shooting. So it was a really fun thrifted find once again. And I tried to do a little gallery wall of women I aspire to be, aka Victorian women relaxing and reading books and having cocktails. I usually start with a color palette that I'll pull up from Pinterest or wherever, just to kind of get an idea of where I'm going with it. And then I'll create these little vignettes. So take, for example, my coffee table. It's a teeny tiny space. I pick a couple of items based on that color palette. And then from there, I can kind of branch off into the whole room, and it helps me create other little spaces that all completely tie together as one. So when we first moved in, this bathroom was very gray and just blah. I really wanted to insert some more color into it. So I did that color drench technique again, painted not only the walls, but the trim and the ceiling, sort of an olive green to keep with that green vibe, but change it up a little bit. And then we left the vanity as is, but my husband added in this rose gold faucet. And then I took that same peel and stick wallpaper that we did in the fireplace mantle in our bedroom onto the front panels of the bathroom vanity. And we also added this thrifted gold mirror just to add a little bit of a pop of color from the green, a little bit of contrast. So with this space, I really wanted to add a lot of different textures as well. So we added the wood shelving to kind of just hold a lot of like the beauty products and everything like that. We also went ahead and changed out a lot of the light plates for more vintage looking brass ones as well. And still keeping with that maximalist vibe, lots of different arts, thrifted prints, and I like this frame a lot. It's actually domed in there, so I was kind of thinking about maybe changing it up and adding something with a little bit more 3D texture to it eventually, but for now it's still cute. And then kind of just continuing the gallery wall that we see throughout our entire house. More textures with wood and greenery. This is one of my favorite upcycled pieces that we've done. One of my girlfriends was getting rid of this armoire that she had in her house, so we ended up taking it off her hands, kind of refurbished it a little bit. We put wallpaper into the inner parts and actually turned it into a wine bar cabinet. Luis did these glass hangers on the top that he drilled in, so I think it's a great way to display all of my fun glassware, and it's a little wine bar now that we use every day rather than just an old armoire for clothes. We've gotten a lot of our decor from friends who do their own art, from thrift stores. I find a lot of stuff on Marketplace, things on the side of the road. I mean, it kind of just pulls in from everywhere. I feel like we don't have a ton of new stuff, really, other than our couch and a couple other main pieces. A lot of it is thrifted.
This is our kitchen. We started out obviously with painting, again with Katie's favorite color. We got the green back in here. And the kitchen was a little boring at first, so we needed to add some accents, get things to pop. We changed the knobs out on our cabinets, changed out some of the lighting here in the house as well.
We also kind of wanted to do the same thing that we did in the living room and take advantage of how cool the keyhole ceilings are by keeping that outer ledge of the trim green and then layering it with the white to add more visual interest and contrast as well. And we added in another one of the black chandeliers. We also didn't want to get rid of this couch from our old apartment, so we decided to get a little creative and change it into some dining room seating that's not necessarily the most conventional, but it is very, very comfy for when we have people over, and of course it's in my favorite emerald green color. The first thing I want people to notice when they come into our space is the character and charm, and I want them to feel like they're walking into a house in New Orleans. And I think my goal was just to make everything as cozy as possible. Thanks for stopping by.
We'll see you soon.